Welcome into the official. It's your host, Alfred. And yes, I am solo for this week, but we are going over industry on three consensus running backs 6 through 10 in this video. And, the data is a little bit limited for the 2026 class. We're doing our best to continue to add in data points and the athletic measurements that we can get. But we're going to have to take some of this with a grain of salt. Some of this is from sophomore season. So these kids have a lot of room to grow. But as of right now, we will discuss what we're seeing, what I'm seeing on tape here. And so we're going to go running backs 6 through 10, starting with Javian out of the state of Texas. He's 5'10", 175. So definitely all these guys are going to be lighter than you're thinking at this stage in their development. He's currently to Oklahoma. He's got a 4.52 40, 64th percentile shot, and some lower of the lifting grades or numbers. But of course, he's got 2 years to improve on that at the end of it all. He's 756 yards, 6 yards per carry this year, and 168, 3 and 18 total TDs. What I like about him is some good feet. I think he's got good change of pace and gear shifting, so kind of can throttle up, throttle down where appropriate. Good enough long distance speed, and I'm optimistic on receiving. He's shown a little bit lining up in the out wide, a little bit in the slot, and then receiving some out of the backfield as well. So he seems kind of well-rounded. Again, 175 is just light. It's hard for me to project how much these guys are going to add on. He's 5'10", so he's got somewhat of a frame, but he looks a little lighter just in general, or slighter of frame, I guess I should say, in what I can find, at this stage in his development, mostly sophomore film, some junior clips, but not that much of it. So I think the skill set is there as a runner. I'd like to see him obviously get bigger. And a lot of people really like this guy. He's very highly rated and going to Oklahoma, which right now looks like a mess, but, has a history of a lot of good skill position talent. I think he's a good runner. And what I mean by that, just the ability to kind of that feel for the position, gear shifting up, gear shifting down where he needs to, not just running full steam ahead all the time. So a little bit of patience there, a little bit of ability to kind of use his tools in different ways instead of just boom, hitting that turbo button and getting around the corner, so to speak. Then we move on to Demarius Yates. He's 5'9.5", 180 pounds, and currently committed to Mississippi State. He's got 9,100 meters, so that's good to get under 11. Limited, but he does have returns on his repertoire, so he's used in the special teams game, which I really like to see. Probably the biggest pure producer this year with 103 rushes for 1147. That's 11.1 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns, and then 20 for 362 and 3 in the air. So this is a lot of production for Demarius Yates. And what I only assume to be is low-level competition in the state of Mississippi. So, I think the competition in some of these states is pretty poor. I don't have the strength of schedule on me right now. Some stuff I found that, make me concerned with some of those numbers. I was like, this guy could be really interesting. But I thought he was much more of a straight line runner. I didn't see a lot of creativity with footwork or just kind of seemed to be fast and kind of want to hit a straight line and then you go and would go. And certainly a lot of long runs. He's 11.1 yards per carry. That's great. As just a pure runner, though, I'm not sure I saw what I'd like to see at this stage in his development. Seems to be just a fast guy who's not even otherworldly fast. I mean, 10.9 is great, but that's not breaking any records. Who pretty much was just able to run away from what would appear to me to be, just an outclassed competition on speed. And if that's your only card, I'm just not sure, unless it's elite, which I don't think his speed is elite. I'm a little worried how that's going to translate to the next level. I like 20 for 362 and 3 in the air. I couldn't see much of that on his tape, so I'm not sure where those receptions are coming from, but it's on the stat sheet. So I'm optimistic he could be a nice dual threat with the receiving contributions, but right now not totally sold on Demarius Yates as a, certainly as a workhorse back or a 3-down back, maybe a spark plug who can hit a hole and run, to daylight. Moving on to Deshonne Redeaux, I believe is how you might say it. 5'9 and a half, 180 out of California, and currently leaning towards UCLA. So looking to stay home potentially. And this is a guy, where it's funny. Javian Osborne, I saw this, and I see it even more in Redeaux, which is great feet. Another thing that I see with him is contact balance. He's a smaller guy, but really grinding through contact, ability to push a pile, doesn't see it on first contact. So I really like what I'm seeing with his ability to manage, the colors that come in his area. I see acceleration, and in the same way as Osborne, I see a guy who seems to know when to, kind of not go full speed and save that extra gear for when he needs to get around corner, when he needs to split defenders, things like that. Very little receiving. You'll see here a kickoff return, which I always like to see. But the biggest thing here with him is 1.8 miles per hour clocked, a 10,400 meter. So he's got the just blow away speed that I like to see, combined with what I'm looking at, good feet and some contact balance. To me, he would be one of my favorite running backs I've looked at so far in this class based on what I'm looking at on tape. But then you get to the stats and you're a little concerned with 91 for 706 and 9 this year, 7.8 yards per carry. The great ones really do have 10 a lot of times. So it's a little bit of an inefficient running stat sheet for Redeaux, but I do like what I'm seeing on tape. Very interesting seeing how this guy develops. And of course, we have another few games in junior year, and then we have senior year for these guys to continue to develop. But what I'm seeing from him, just really good feet and acceleration, ability to maneuver in small spaces. I think he seems like a really good runner. But that always makes no sense to me then when I see really inefficient stats. Now, I know there's a lot that goes through that, offensive line, offensive scheme, things like that. So I don't write a guy off, but I just want to tell you these are all the components to the big puzzle that we do. Deshonne Walker is going to be next. He is looking at Nebraska and Kansas. 4.5540, over a little slightly over 11 seconds and 100 meters, what he's been clocked at. 5 yards, 1 yards per carry, so we're getting really low. 132 for 671 this year. 3 catches for 45 yards. The best thing I can say about him, I think, is contact balance. Just seems like a guy who is able to run through some tackles and has a decent, if not kind of a grinding running style. 5.1 yards per carry is almost a non-starter to me. Even as a junior, that would almost double. And then he doesn't have any kind of traits that I'm looking at that really blow me away to say, okay, I'm willing to look past an incredibly inefficient stat line for this running back. So Walker, to me, probably a little overranked. Not sure I see anything too exciting with Walker at this time. And then we have Messiah Mickens, who's committed to Penn State. So, they're kind of guys here. We looked at a quarterback who's committed there. Now, Mickens is kind of in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so the backyard of Penn State. Makes sense. And he is 5'10", 195. So really nice running back physique. Put on some pounds. He could get to 210, 215, no problem. A lot of his clips this year and last year are him playing some safety. But he does line up as a receiver from time to time. You can see right here on this clip, he's going to line up as a receiver in the slot and then catch a little seam route there. So I think here he's playing defense. So he's got a lot of skills, running back, receiver, playing some defense, making some tackles. I do like that in general. I like guys who show a lot of different body control, because defense is oftentimes playing backwards and forwards. Running back is mostly only playing forwards. But 4.55 40 for this guy at almost 200 pounds. I think that is great. Nothing elite, but certainly checks boxes for me. 7.4 yards per carries this year. 90 for 668 and 9 for Messiah Mickens, and then 9 receptions for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns as a receiver. I think he shows a nice, well-rounded skill set, and we know Penn State has the ability to get you in the weight room and make you an athletic freak on top of everything else. I think he kind of strikes me a bit of a Quentin Martin, maybe a store brand Quentin Martin right now, who we know everyone liked and, has gotten a little run for Penn State behind their 2 main running backs this year. And, probably takes over next year for Penn State. So I think Messiah Mickens is in that mold, and we'll see how he develops. But he has an interesting skill set, multifaceted. I think we can look at a guy and see definitely can be utilized as a true receiver, not screen passes. Always going to be interesting to me as a fantasy football prospector. So Messiah Mickens, definitely a guy to have on your radar for 2026. That'll do it for running backs. Tune in for the end of the week, or I guess the beginning of next week, the way we space it out, for the receiver show. It's been The Official.